I don't understand, Amanda. Are you crying? What's wrong? Danilo, who had climbed the stairs to the 5th floor, looked puzzled at the girl sitting on the stairs between the 3rd and 4th floors. Amanda's apartment was on the 4th floor, but she clearly wasn't heading there. Danilo had known the girl since they were kids. They were 5 years apart, and he had always treated her like a little girl until they got older. He knew Amanda was getting married, everyone was gossiping about it, but his neighbor's behavior surprised him. A beautiful paper bag which would be used for the wedding lay on the floor next to the girl, with a veil and white artificial flowers spilling out of it. Amanda looked at the man with tears streaming down her face and said, hello, with a sad smile. Hello, Danilo. How are you? The woman said. Yeah, I'm fine, but why are you crying? Danilo asked cautiously. What's wrong? Is there something I can do to help? Amanda replied softly, my fiancé left me, and we're just 2 weeks away from the wedding. Danilo sat down next to Amanda and put his arm around her shoulders. Don't cry. You are a smart and beautiful girl, a beauty that no one can take their eyes off. He will regret what he did a lot, said the kind young man. I doubt it. He won't even remember me. And me? How will I face my parents? I'm 28 years old and still not married. They will laugh at me. I don't even want to live because of this, the girl said. Danilo looked at her strangely. Look, maybe this isn't the right time to say this, considering how upset you are, but if you see it, I have the same story as you, the young man said. This happened to you? You were also dumped 2 weeks before your wedding? She looked at Danilo with surprise. No, Danilo began to explain with some annoyance. I'm in my 30s. My parents and acquaintances are tired of asking when I'm going to bring a bride home. If you and I are in the same situation, maybe the solution is the same. I mean, maybe we should get married. Then, if we formalize the marriage for appearances, everyone will think that a bachelor and a jilted bride found happiness. I don't understand, Amanda looked at him even more surprised. So you're suggesting that we deceive everyone? Well, let's not be so categorical about it, Danilo smiled. It's just that this way we'll solve an important issue. Neither of us will be alone, and both my family and yours will be relieved to know that we are both married. So, let's get married. I promise not to demand marital duties or rights. Danilo restrained himself just in time to say he never planned to start a family. Amanda was a modest and discerning girl, as far as he could judge from her behavior. She didn't get into scandals, no one accused her of indecent behavior, although the grandmothers at the front door were always talking about what was going on. Amanda looked at him with a distrustful expression, and the man realized he needed to give her time to think. Look, if we got married, there would be many advantages. First, the wedding is already paid for. Second, we've known each other well since childhood. Third, each of us would be free to do what we did before we got married. The main thing is to keep everything a secret from everyone. We would be a normal couple and be left alone. Discussing how wrong it would be for her to lie to her own family, Danilo managed to make her change her mind. Under the pressure of his arguments, the girl gave in and looked at the veil with a laugh. Pretend you didn't see my wedding dress and veil, or it'll bring bad luck, as they say. Get ready. I'm getting married in a week, Amanda laughed. Come on, groom. Just don't go back on your word later. A week later, they were engaged, ready to marry. Their parents were shocked that their children didn't even dare to hint at their relationship. However, the wedding took place the same month in a luxurious restaurant. The bride and guests had a great time and acted as if they had always dreamed of this wedding. Their parents always looked surprised. Amanda's mother didn't like Danilo's parents, but had the self-control not to show her feelings. 3 days after the wedding, the young couple set aside a romantic honeymoon trip. It was difficult for Danilo to decide to take a step like marriage after unsuccessful romances, when previous girlfriends left him and went for wealthier suitors. He didn't lead a lonely life, but he couldn't imagine ever getting married. He was also in the same situation as Amanda. He was about to propose to his beloved, but she rejected him and proposed a breakup. After a while, Danilo found out that she had married some banker. Since then, he hadn't had a serious relationship with any woman for years. But now Amanda was by his side, acting like a true wife. The only difference was that Danilo slept on the couch in the next room, while Amanda rested in the huge double bed. The man sometimes wanted to burst into her room in the middle of the night and demand the fulfillment of marital duties, just to see how Amanda would react. But she looked at him in such a way that all desire disappeared immediately. Many people looked at the couple with interest and curiosity, praising the beautiful pair. Amanda was extraordinarily lovely and friendly. When she laughed, it was contagious. To see her laugh, Danilo started saying all sorts of nonsense, but he tried to observe the limits of decency so that his jokes weren't too provocative. Danilo began to be surprised and moved by Amanda's presence, the way she smiled, the way her eyes sparkled when he told something interesting, the way she happily jumped into the water and swam beside him, asking him to hold her so she wouldn't drown. When Danilo had an unfortunate fall and slightly hurt the muscles in his back, the woman herself offered to give him a massage. She did it according to all the rules. First, she warmed up all the muscles, then applied oil and worked all the muscles very skillfully. While she was busy massaging, Danilo saw his reflection in the mirror. Amanda's face was very focused. She sweetly furrowed her brow when she had to exert effort. There was something special and familiar about her that couldn't be explained in words. The thought crossed the man's mind that he had given his word in vain not to act like a husband. She acted very calmly and sympathetically, but Danilo sometimes wished he could ask her directly if she liked it. He wanted to have the chance to get a sign from her that something more than a mere sham marriage was possible between them. One day, when Amanda didn't want to go down to the bar, he went there alone. He immediately noticed a slender woman with very feminine shapes sitting bored near the bar. The man carelessly sat next to her and nodded to the bartender. "Good afternoon. A cold beer, please." "Oh wow." The stranger's voice was heard. Danilo turned to her. The woman was drinking her cocktail and smiling enigmatically. They started talking, and a plan formed in the man's mind. Danilo began to appear frequently in the company of his new acquaintance Laura, who had come to spend her vacation nearby. Because of her extravagant appearance, there were almost always men around Laura, and Danilo was no exception. He wasn't ashamed of Amanda's presence. He flirted with the girl, allowing himself some daring jokes and gestures. For example, he could kiss a woman on the cheek. Amanda continued to behave as if nothing had happened, and Danilo thought with disappointment that he hadn't managed to shake his wife's feelings. One day, when he entered the room, he found Amanda packing her things. The girl was folding her clothes with a determined look, clenching her jaw. When Danilo appeared at the door and looked at her surprised, he asked, "Oh, what's going on here?" Amanda, without looking in his direction, replied, "You know, you and I have a fake marriage anyway, so let's not drag this out for 6 months to keep deceiving everyone. I'll go back and file for divorce, citing my husband's adultery as the reason. Normally, people look at that sympathetically and get divorced quickly." Danilo began to come to his senses. Amanda, but it doesn't work like that. You and I are on our honeymoon. We're doing well, and then you start talking about divorce? We've been married for only 2 weeks. He called me, Amanda confessed, sinking onto the bed and clutching her phone. He apologized to me, said he was very sorry and couldn't live without me. So, I decided to give us both a second chance. Look, we're still strangers to each other. We only got married to get our parents off our backs, and you have an excuse to leave your old life under the guise of a failed first marriage. Everyone's happy, the woman said. Amanda, he already cheated on you once, Danilo said, raising his voice as he realized it. His wife smiled back but spoke harshly, he wasn't the only one who cheated on me. Danilo, who was about to say that his affair with Laura was just an excuse to make her jealous, was left breathless when Amanda said, Sorry, but I've already made a decision. I bought a return ticket and I'm going home. You can spend as much time here as you want and with whomever you want. Amanda, he already hurt you, Danilo said passionately. You can't go back to someone who did that to you. And didn't you hurt me? Amanda asked, and left the room in the best way possible. Danilo realized he was heartbroken. He felt the need for a proper drink and a conversation about it. Danilo quickly descended to the bar and ordered a cognac. Soon, Laura appeared as usual and looked at him with a mocking expression on her face. Why didn't you come to the beach? The woman asked. What should I have done? Danilo replied angrily, taking a sip of his drink. Laura's eyes narrowed, and she stared at Danilo with a serious, long look. What's the problem? Did you have a fight with your wife? Yes, she left me for her ex, Danilo said, grabbing his head. Yeah, I wanted her to get a bit jealous to show some feelings for me, but it seems I did the wrong thing. Laura shook her head. Despite his personal conviction that marriage wasn't for him, Danilo turned out to be a true one-woman man. This discovery was a shock even to himself. You wanted to make your wife jealous and turn a fake marriage into a real one? Laura asked. I suppose so. What an idiot you are, Danilo. There are no words for it, Laura muttered. Run after her before it's too late. Fall at her feet, but tell her how you feel. Die but make your wife hear you. Danilo shuddered at these words and ran out of the bar, shouting to the girl, Laura, you're a miracle. Thank you. He impatiently nudged the taxi driver who was already driving at high speed. Come on, man, can you hurry? I have to get to the airport immediately. Yeah, I'm trying, sir, replied the driver, maneuvering carefully through traffic. When Danilo arrived at the airport, he paid the taxi driver and ran to the check-in area. Security didn't want to let him in without a ticket and documents, but after hearing his plea, they let him into the boarding area. However, there was no one there. The board displayed the message that her flight was en route. Amanda flew away, and he arrived too late. When he returned to the hotel, Laura knew from his somber look that he hadn't succeeded. Danilo didn't explain anything to anyone and asked for his hotel bill. The staff accepted the payment quietly, but after he left, Danilo broke down in tears. Danilo's parents were outraged when their son appeared at their apartment door with a gloomy expression. He went straight to his room. His mother was about to ask where his wife was when his father silently nudged her and pressed his finger to his lips. Leave him alone. The woman followed the advice and said nothing to her son. Danilo didn't go anywhere all day, occasionally appearing in the kitchen to pour himself a cup of strong coffee. His parents understood that this was a sign that their son was very upset and needed to keep his mind clear. Suddenly, Danilo put on his jacket and ran out into the street. He saw Amanda and a tall man, with whom she was walking arm in arm, outside the house. Without paying attention, Danilo turned to Amanda. Amanda, hello. I'm so sorry. Let's talk about this. Amanda paled and recoiled. The woman's companion asked, looking at the rival, and who is this? He asked. How can I tell you? Amanda replied tensely. He's my fake husband. Danilo looked and responded quickly, that's not true. I'm not fake. Everything between us was real. I love you and want to prove it. Just give me a second chance, please. Look, man, you must be confused about something. What kind of husband are you to her? Get out of here before I get angry, Amanda's current fiancé said angrily. Shut up. Danilo replied harshly, and he turned to Amanda again. Amanda, understand that he has already cheated on you and hurt you. He did it once, if necessary, he'll cheat on you again. Don't make a mistake. Give us the chance to be happy with each other. I care about you deeply. Yes, I saw how much you care about me, the girl replied coldly. I care about how you feel about me. Besides, I want to be your real husband so that everything between us is like in a normal family. Let's start over.
Comme on, my love.
Amanda shuddered at these words, and for a moment, she hesitated. But after a moment, she composed herself and said to her companion, "Let's go home. I'm tired of this silly spectacle." Without glancing back at Danilo, they walked away. They went to the entrance and disappeared behind closed doors. The man remained in the courtyard, feeling like a complete fool. He had ruined his relationship with Amanda with his own hands because he hadn't immediately realized that she was his first and only. Danilo slowly went up to his apartment and locked himself in his room. If Amanda decided to go for the divorce, he wouldn't interfere. But for some reason, the woman procrastinated, and almost a year passed. Danilo was still in an uncertain situation, not knowing if he was single or married. To forget his personal problems, he was completely absorbed in his work. He passed Amanda's apartment with a heavy heart, quickening his pace to avoid bumping into her or her fiancé. One day, Danilo's mother came shopping and looked at her son with concern. Hi Mom," the man greeted her apathetically, chewing on a sandwich and sipping cold tea.
Hello, son.
"Are you eating cold food as usual?" His mother chided, taking groceries out of the bags. After a minute of silence, she continued. "You know, I saw Amanda the other day." She noticed the look of great interest on her son's face, though he pretended not to care. Danilo yawned to calm himself. "Yeah, I think there's something wrong with her," his mother said thoughtfully, not looking at him. Her eyes were red, she looked tired and sad. "God forbid her fiancé is hurting her. You should go see her and find out what's wrong." "But why?" her son responded, surprised. "She and I are nothing to each other anymore. Just a youthful mistake, so to speak." "It would be a mistake if you left like this without even explaining to her mother," his mother replied calmly. "She was standing in front of me at the checkout, looking sad with tearful, tired or restless eyes." "Go see how she is." Danilo resisted for a while, trying to appear indifferent, but he eventually took his mother's advice, grumbling that he still had to listen to her valuable advice. He arrived at Amanda's apartment door. She opened it immediately, and when she saw her ex-husband, she stared at him in surprise. "Danilo, what are you doing here?" The woman's voice sounded tearful. Apparently, she had been crying recently. "I was passing by and thought I'd stop by to see how you were doing. It's been a long time since you went out." "I haven't seen you in ages," Danilo said, excited. Despite her tears and gloomy mood, Amanda was still very beautiful. Her lips were slightly swollen, and she looked so vulnerable.
May I come in?"
"I'd hate to stand at the door," the man asked. "Of course." As Danilo entered, he found himself in a corridor that was both dim and cozy, yet clean. Amanda took a step back and looked at him with a blank expression. "Amanda, have you been crying?" Danilo found it somehow painful to look at her tears. He approached her and gently touched her face with his hand. Why are you crying? Did someone hurt you?" "Here you go again," Amanda said with a somber smile. "Why does everyone think I get offended so easily?" she asked. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to imply that," Danilo said, feeling embarrassed. He didn't want to leave her despite her bad mood. Suddenly, Amanda softened so much that Danilo was left speechless for a moment. "I'm so tired, Danilo," she whispered. So tired of being alone, but I don't want to be with someone who hurt me." "Do you understand?" she said. "I acted like a fool," Danilo murmured, taking Amanda's hand. "I never thought I could fall for someone like this, especially someone I thought of as just a friend for most of my life. But it happens, doesn't it?" he said passionately.
You love me.
Amanda's eyes widened. Danilo looked intensely into her face. "I love you madly. I can't live without you. Not a day goes by that I don't think of you." Amanda looked at him as no one had ever looked at her before. Danilo felt he had set aside his fear of happiness and started to believe in it. He gently touched her lips and froze when she responded to his kiss. The man carefully lifted Amanda into his arms and carried her to the bedroom as if she were the greatest treasure. His mind was a fog. His heart beat wildly. Every reciprocal word or action from Amanda stirred a range of emotions in him that made him dizzy. Danilo pulled the girl close, lightly touched the top of her head with his lips, and breathed in the scent of her fragrant and lush hair. "I still can't believe we're really married," he whispered. Amanda smiled back. "Honestly, I don't believe it either." As they lay on the bed and cuddled together, the lovers eagerly shared their thoughts and feelings. "You know, when I saw you with Laura, I didn't want to live," she confessed. "Especially when you were dancing with her or when you were applying cream to her back at the beach. I wanted to strangle both of you at that moment." Danilo looked at her in surprise. "Yes, so I thought, why not return the favor to you? I figured that if you saw me with my ex, you would start fighting for me. But all you did was stand there, quiet, while I went out with him. At that moment, I wanted so much to fall and never see you again," Amanda murmured. "I felt the same way," Danilo whispered, kissing Amanda on the exposed shoulder. "I wanted to run away from you because I was scared. I thought my feelings were too strong. But after our wedding, when we went on our trip, everything changed. I was afraid I was starting to fall in love with you, and even though we had agreed there would be nothing between us.
I'm sorry, Danilo.
I did something stupid." What are you talking about? You can't run away from yourself," Amanda smiled. "No matter how much I convinced myself that I was doing everything right, that you cheated on me first, I felt like I couldn't see anyone else around me and didn't need anyone else." Danilo froze, because every word she said described exactly what he was feeling and thinking at that moment. And my ex, when I told him it was over between us, he just shouted a bit to show off and left. He said he didn't need me like this, sick in the head. Yes, our story isn't a typical case, Danilo agreed. "So what should we do?" Amanda thought. Danilo pretended to think about it. "Well, to start, you and I will move back in together." "You want to live with me?" "I have my own apartment. I recently finished the repairs there. If you want, we can stay there. Second, we need to get to know each other better. Now we're not just roommates, we're husband and wife." Amanda looked at him with bright eyes and a smile. There was a peculiar relaxation and sincerity in her as she rested her head on Danilo's chest. "Yes, Danilo. You and I will certainly not get bored. We could make a TV series or a psychiatry book about how to go crazy with jealousy and regain sanity. I think we can finally have our happy ending." Danilo smiled. The two went to sleep together, happy to finally have each other's love.